Today we're going to be putting in a centered zipper, and I'm going to be using the instructions found in today's lesson. The first thing you want to do is cut 2 pieces of muslin 3 inches longer and 4 inches wide, 3 inches longer than your zipper. That way, and I've marked right here 2 inches below the zipper and at least 1 inch above the zipper. What you're going to then do is stitch with a regular stitch at 5/8 the center back seam, which is the lower 2 inches, back stitch beginning and end, and then you will machine baste, which is using a large machine stitch, no back stitch necessary, the remainder of the seam, which is your zipper opening. And it's a good idea to take your seam ripper and break the stitches on one side of your stitching every inch or so. That just makes it easier to remove. Then you want to press open your seam allowance and lay it down. And then you're going to place the zipper face down, and you're going to start at that 2-inch mark where you started your regular stitches. And you want to put the zipper coils exactly on the seam. The lower edge, remember, is at the beginning of the permanent stitching, and we're going to pin our zipper to our seam allowance. And you'll pin right across and make sure that your coils stay on your seam. And when you get to the top, it's a good idea to pin each one of these down so that when you're finished, your zipper is pinned down and it looks like this. So it's pinned to hold those two together at the top, and the rest of it is pinned straight down. Then what you want to do is place this face up like so, and then you're going to take a needle threaded, double threaded, and knotted at the end. This is for hand basting. And you're going to use your seam gauge, and starting at the center seam, you're going to hand baste the zipper in place across the bottom and 1/4 inch up one side, and then you're going to do that on the other side. And this is what we use our seam gauge for. We're going to go up right in the seam, right down here in the seam, and then we're going to come across using our seam gauge set at 1/4 inch, and we want to come across one side like so, and then we're going to come through and measure to see if we're still at 1/4 inch, and we're going to be basting. And you can take large stitches, but just make sure they're small enough to hold in your zipper. And check every time. And you're going to continue that way all the way up the side, and then do the other side. So that when you're finished, it looks like this. And I've left long stitches at the top. You don't have to worry. My long threads are at the top. You don't have to worry about knotting them at the top, because this will hold your zipper in. And that's a fairly straight line that you can follow. You're going to use this to hold the zipper in and use it as a guide for stitching. Make sure when you look at the other side that your zipper is nice and neat and is secure, and you're not going to run over your zipper teeth. So this is ready for our sample. I've also done the same thing with our sample project zipper. I've basted it in, and the other side is basted in, so I'm ready to start. The hand basting does take a few minutes and takes a while to get used to, so just practice and be patient with it. Use your seam gauge. The reason that you start at the bottom and go across is to give you a good guide for stitching, because you want to come across 1/4 inch and come straight up 1/4 inch, and you want to start at the bottom every time. You'll see that when we start sewing, so that it doesn't stretch out of shape. Now we're ready to sew in our zipper.